what is the connection between Francis Bacon and Auguste Rodin? At first glance, they seem worlds apart. One working in bronze at the turn of the 20th century, the other in paint at the height of post-war modernism. And yet, when their works are placed side by side, the conversation is immediate. Both artists devoted their lives to exploring the human figure. They were less interested in idealized beauty than in revealing raw emotion, vulnerability, anguish, intensity. In Bacon's canvases and Rodin's bronzes, the body becomes a vessel for truth, stripped of artifice and pushed to its limits.
Je trouve pas que c'est désespéré du tout. Je trouve le contraire. Ça donne beaucoup d'espoir.
Auguste Rodin's Jean de Fienne and Pierre de Visson belong to his celebrated monument, one of the greatest works of public sculpture, the Burghers of Calais. Commissioned in 1884, it broke with centuries of tradition. Instead of idealized heroes, Rodin gave us fragile, anguished men, weighed down by sacrifice, questioning their fate, dragging out the inevitable.
When Rodin was approached to do the commission for the city of Calais, he read the story of Froissart and thought of what happened in 1347 to break the siege of Calais, the starvation of the people. They would surrender to King Edward III. And he immediately wanted to use native people of the region. So he knew two artists from there. And then when he began work on Pierre de Visson, an actor, Coquelin, volunteered to pose. And so realism was one of his most important elements. He wanted it to be authentic.
In these two youthful figures, the youngest of the 6 citizens who offered their lives on behalf of their fellows, Jean de Fienne raises his arms in a supplicant gesture, while Pierre de Visson bows his head in both surrender and defiance.
The figures are actually over life size because they'd be over 6 foot. And certainly that wasn't the case in the 14th century. And he wanted to surprise people to identify with them. And so it was a combination of exaggeration, but also from any angle, from any kind of light, they would seem like someone they knew and could identify with.
These are ordinary men caught up in an extraordinary act of self-sacrifice. In that sense, Rodin's work looks forward to Bacon, who also saw the body as a vessel of psychological intensity rather than a perfected ideal. Both artists interrogated the human form devoid of heroism as people like us, unlocking their emotive and expressive qualities to reveal a rawer truth.
Bacon's portrait of a dwarf is equally radical. He painted it in 1975, and initially it was part of a much larger composition. But Bacon, never one to settle, wasn't completely satisfied with the left-hand side of the composition, so he took a knife and literally cut the canvas in two, preserving what we see here, the right-hand panel, and intended to destroy the other side. It was certainly a dramatic gesture, but not one without precedent, and it echoes something we see with Rodin, and in particular, Le Voir Intérieur, a sculpture he deliberately dismembered to intensify its emotional impact, achieving a more powerful, focused expression. It's really about stripping away the excess to get to the raw core. And that's exactly what you feel here. In this narrow, vertical frame, the figure's distorted face and twisted limbs hit you with this incredible force. There's a palpable intensity to it. It almost vibrates with its presence. And Bacon himself undoubtedly felt that too. He kept this painting in his personal collection for many years, not least exhibiting it as his personal property in 1977, where he showed it at the legendary Galerie Claude Bernard show in Paris. It was a rare act of endorsement of his own work.
He said, I'm going to cut off that painting and throw out the part which is on the left. At the Galerie Claude Bernard, we had the surprise to see the dwarf by itself, hanging on the wall, and absolutely taking all the attention because it had such a presence that it was unlike anything else he had done. The dwarf is remarkably present. You can't escape it. It just attracts your sight, and you see only this when you have it with other paintings.
Bacon's first encounter with Rodin may well date to the mid-1920s, soon after his move to London. A cast of the burghers of Calais stands outside the Houses of Parliament, erected in 1915 shortly after the outbreak of the First World War, and since described as Britain's most beautiful work of modern art in a public place. And we know that Bacon's studio was full of materials relating to Rodin and his appreciation of the great sculptural forebears, Michelangelo and Donatello. Today, individual casts of the separated figures of the six burghers reside in many of the world's greatest museums, from the Cantor Center to the Musée Rodin in Paris, to the LA County Museum of Art, the Musée Royal des Beaux-Arts in Antwerp, and the National Gallery of Australia.
Beyond his exposure to Rodin's work in London, Bacon was also an avowed Francophile who spent a considerable amount of time in Paris, where he would have visited the Musée Rodin. He was undoubtedly affected by Rodin's handling of the body. This influence can be seen in the tension and compression of Bacon's figures, and both artists portray their subjects with an unconventional, often unsettling realism that reveals deep psychological complexity.
This complexity is evident also in Study for a Self-Portrait of 1980, where we see Bacon's intensity turn inward. Here we see an artist reflecting in older age, looking back at himself as a younger man. He softens the distortion beneath this extraordinary haze of atmospheric blues, pinks and oranges that echo the grand masters of French painting, the pastels of Edgar Degas. Even exclaiming with specificity to this painting, this is my Impressionist period.
The self-portrait is a very exceptional piece in his work because it was the very beginning of a style where he brought the image out of a haze. You have to wait until the haze lets you through. And he said, oh, that's my Impressionist period. But in fact, it is a very soft, very romantic attitude towards his own image. He made himself much younger than he was at the time that he did it. And if you try to outline the features, you get lost in it. It's something which works in its own as one thing. And that one also comes up to you. You can hardly escape it. But very, very different of anything else he did. He was indulging in himself a little bit there, I think. It's a young man who's looking at you with dreamy eyes, and you become yourself involved in that dream.
Beneath the surface lies that same psychological tension. This is an image imbued with both compassion and unease. If you look closely, we can see how the slashed scumble paint echoes the same tactile irregularities of Rodin's bronzes. Bronze and paint alike becoming living, breathing flesh.
What unites Bacon and Rodin is their willingness to strip away idealization and confront us with the human body as it really is, vulnerable, distorted, and alive with emotion.
These people are preserved. You know them like they're someone you saw on the street or you began to know, and that's true of the burghers of Calais particularly. It's as if, why am I being asked to be the hostage and sacrifice my life? I'm young, I'm strong, I've got my arms out, my robe is falling off my shoulders. I want to get out of here. I'm too young to be sacrificed. And you could identify with the subjects in a great, marvelous way. And that's something that erases time.
Bacon once said, there are only three sculptors of note: Michelangelo, Brancusi, and Rodin. That admiration shaped his art for decades, and you can feel it in these paintings. To present them here alongside Rodin's most emotionally charged bronzes allows us to see their dialogue afresh.